Hi, everyone. Welcome to our podcast. This is Janae,
And this is Kels,
and you're listening to.
Jenny and Chels.
All right.
So, the story I have for you today is from the No Sleep subreddit. And it's pretty long, so how about we just get right into it?
All right, let's do it.
Yeah. Our main character, let's call him OP, has this best friend from high school called Kevin.
Mhm.
Kevin and OP used to be really close, but then as they grew up and life took its toll, they kind of drifted apart. And it ended up with Kevin being this really well put together person who has a great job, quite a bit of money because he has a massive house, three kids, lots of hobbies, and just seems to have succeeded in life by OP's characteristics of success.
Mhm.
Now, OP, on the other end, does these odd jobs. He tries his best to make ends meet, and with whatever money that he makes, he ends up partying all the way. So he's just really living life as it comes and goes. Now, after a while, apparently Kevin reaches out to OP and says, "Hey, we haven't hung out in a long time. I would like to rekindle our friendship. How about you and I go spend the weekend at one of my cabins in the woods?"
Mhm.
Now, OP
In
has never. Mhm.
okay. Mhm.
OP has never seen his friend, like, friend's a little bit uptight, and he's never seen him really let loose. So he jumped at the opportunity. He, as any friend would, and they set to go on the trip. Kevin is the one who drove, and they ended up in the middle of the woods. It seemed like it was in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by these huge trees. And as soon as they get there, they're in front of the door of the cabin. Kevin tells him, "Okay, are you ready? I have the pills right here."
Mhm.
And they both take them and they step inside. So as they walked in, the high kicked in instantly, and everything inside of the cabin looked like the most intense hallucination ever. And we're talking about OP, who's not unfamiliar with the party life.
Not a
And
novice at all. And also, okay, not to cut it off, but immediately as soon as they took the pills and walked in,
yes, that is definitely a bit shady. Anything, even if it's just the time for it to reach your stomach, it has to have at least a
right? Like
delay.
I don't know, like they have acid in their mouth instead of saliva, because that breakdown was like instantaneous.
When you drink Mountain Dew instead of water, maybe that happens. But he
All right,
described
let's
it,
go.
yeah, he described it as the room being busy, but not with people, and that it was filled with these really long, tall, ghoulish-looking things that were walking around the room and had bodies of black fur, and their heads were bright yet dark.
Huh.
Yeah, it's hard to explain. That's what he had said.
Wow.
That it's hard to explain, and that whenever they walked, wherever they stepped on would illuminate, and whenever you look at them, you couldn't really tell where their face was. Like you couldn't see if they had eyes or mouth, and they had some sort of really large wings. And
Mm.
whenever he would look up in the room, he wouldn't see a ceiling. Just the room would stretch um really, really long, far away, and at the very top of what he could see was a dark silver, shimmering upside down pool. So,
Hmm?
yeah,
I'm trying
that's
to picture it right now, and it's tripping, and I'm not even on whatever they took.
yeah, that's a very intense high. And that's not over. That's not all, because on top of visual cues or visual hallucination, he also would hear croaky, deep giggling coming from all over the room, and as if it was really loud in his head. So even him was thinking it's the most the strongest auditory hallucination he's ever
Yeah.
had. So as you've noticed, because it was so intense, he asked Kevin what what is it exactly that they took, because he wanted to take that stuff again.
Yeah, he's wild.
But Kevin wasn't letting him know. He was being very tight-lipped about it. He didn't want to say give him any hints as of what it is, and OP is trying to figure it out. So he's googling like the effects of his hallucination or drugs that can maybe induce that, and he's also a little bit worried about Kevin because Kevin is very not uptight was what he used to describe him, but very prim and proper. So
Hmm.
not somebody who usually takes drugs. So he's wondering how's his friend doing, being a good friend. And he noticed that
Especially for somebody that doesn't usually do like drugs for the first time, and if he is a connoisseur in that and he's tripping that much, can you imagine the first person, the person that doesn't do it at all, you know?
exactly. And it's just good measure also to like keep an eye on your friend if you're going to engage in such activities. But yeah, I would be very worried too. So as he's keeping an eye on Kevin, he notices that Kevin is walking around the house whispering like under his breath, can kind of not wanting OP to really figure out what he's saying. And Kevin is slowly starting to light candles around a room with a very large rug, which kind of feels like a fire hazard.
Oh yeah, Kevin is losing it. Kevin is on, he's in a different dimension. Like, what's going on?
Exactly. So that's why OP is thinking too. He's like, maybe that's just his way of dealing with this. Maybe it's too much and he needs to do something to distract himself. So he's
Hmm.
just going to keep an eye on him. So as the trip progresses, OP is wondering if it's going to calm down a little bit, because he's noticed that the hallucination in the room has not changed and that he's still seeing and hearing the very same things as when he walked into the cabin. And also the hallucination is somehow interacting with him because the creatures that he would see were also kind of looking at him even though he couldn't see where their eyes were.
Hmm.
Yeah, very
Yes,
weird.
it is very weird. First of all, they're light yet dark, but they're
Mhm.
looking at him with no eyes.
Yeah, he can't see what eyes are, but he can sense the gaze.
And also, he said that he could see the faces. This
Hmm.
is wow, wow. Okay.
So it's taking a turn, and poor OP is starting to feel a little claustrophobic. So he's wanting to take a walk outside. And when he brought up the idea, Kevin told him that it was pretty bad idea to leave right now, and that it would be better to just stay in the living room and chill. So they wouldn't put themselves in danger. Maybe walking outside, it's the woods, you can get easily lost. And but Opie wasn't having it. So at some point when Kevin wasn't looking or when he was looking a bit distracted, setting the candles, he quickly snuck over to the kitchen and tried to open the door out. Like there was a door leading outside from the kitchen. He tried
Hmm.
opening it, and because he just wanted a bit of fresh air, right?
Yeah.
And he noticed that even though the door was unlocked, he couldn't open it. So
Yeah.
it felt the handle of the door would move, but whether he could open it or he couldn't open it.
So it's unlocked, but he could. Or maybe he's tripping so much he thinks he's opening it, or maybe he's just sitting in the living room picturing it. You
Or he's pushing instead of pulling.
know. Yeah, it's one of those doors, you know. Then it says cool, and you just out there like pushing, like, why is this not opening? I would just, if it's a movie, I would just love to see. Like, I'm just picturing him sitting in the middle of the living room,
Hmm.
and then thinking he's opening the door, and he's like, why is the door not opening? But he's just moving his arms in the air. Can you imagine?
Uh-huh. thinking he's reaching it because
He's reaching, but he hasn't even taken a step yet.
exactly space distortion next level. Oh, so he gave up on the door though, because he was like, okay, never mind. So he tried opening up a window instead, but the window wouldn't open either. Because again, like you said, he's probably just on the couch and trying to think he can reach it.
Mm.
Um, but then he said no matter how hard he tried, it wouldn't open. So he gave up on that idea altogether. And he ended up asking Kevin why was he lighting all of those candles and putting them in a specific pattern, not one that he recognized, but he said um, Kevin told him he just wanted to make sure that they have light for when he gets dark in this rich man's cabin who apparently doesn't have
Right.
electricity.
He doesn't have electricity. I'm pretty sure the way is it OT, right, or OP?
Mhm.
OP is describing it. That guy should have electricity, a generator, and a backup generator to the backup generator. Like it don't make sense that they would need
Like,
candles.
exactly. Are you in the 15th century? What is
Yeah,
it?
like what is next? A torch? Like this is crazy.
Well, maybe we'll have to see. Because by now he's noticing, Opie is noticing that Kevin is looking more stressed and focused as like the high is progressing, and even Opie is worried and asking Kevin like, "Hey, is there a way to come down for this trip because the hallucinations haven't let up at all?" And again, OP is a professional party boy, so he knows when things should be simmering down a bit. But
Hmm.
Kevin just kept on saying that they needed to get to the end and that they were almost there. And um, apparently, OP just trusted him, thinking that he probably again did his research, cover his base, and make sure that they'll be fine. But then he noticed a weird thing, but was wondering if maybe he was overthinking. He noticed that as Kevin was walking around the room and setting the candles, he was reacting to the same stuff that OP could see. That he was trying to make sure not to bump into the ghoulish looking demons. And anytime the giggling from the room would get too loud, Kevin would cover his ears. And usually, when people trip out, the experience is always different. So now
Yeah,
people
I was.
wondering,
That was my next question. So you mean to tell me they're tripping, but they're having the same trip, like that? Like, cause even like on
yeah,
things like weed, some people like get like hyper. Some people are like depressed. Some people just laugh at everything. Some people just become like philosophic. So, but these people are seeing the same thing. Yeah,
yeah, that is
yeah,
definitely weird.
yeah.
um, I don't, and everybody's brain is different, so the way you react to like those substance really should be different. Like even if you see like colors, it shouldn't be the same colors. It should, I don't know. It's
Mm-hmm.
weird. And OP noticed. So he reaches out to Kevin again and he says, "Hey, I'm really starting to lose it. The room is turning red for me, and it feels like the energy, the vibes are just really intense, like it's building up to something." That's when Kevin looked at him and told him, "Hey, I'm really sorry, but I just gave you sugar pills. You're not actually on anything."
What? Say what?
OP is in denial. He's like, "Jesus, Kevin, it's just a
Wait,
bad
wait, wait.
trip."
So all of this is real.
Um, at that point, our OP is still not believing it. He's like, "It's just a bad trip. Like, just let's get through this. Let's suck it up. Like, you just need a distraction so that you wouldn't question what's going on." But Kevin is very serious. Kevin is telling him like, "Hey, I used that as an excuse because I needed to be able to get you up here, and I'm really sorry that I dragged you into this. But now we're going to have to wait until the ritual is over."
The what? The ritual?
Yes.
Oh my lord.
Yeah. And that's exactly where OP is at because he's thinking, oh my God, like Kevin is really going down the rabbit hole and starting to lose his mind. Like, does anybody have any advice? Like, what is it that he had a stake? Things should be starting to calm down. I'm like, he's freaking out and waiting, asking people online and waiting for updates from the replies.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes back and he says that it's been a few more hours and the hallucinations are still happening. Kevin keeps telling him that it's real and that he's sorry. And OP is just thinking, this is the weirdest trip of my life. The hallucination is changing now though, because the room is getting darker and the candles that Kevin was setting earlier actually did help and he could see better around the room, but and also hear that the giggling had turned into a low hum that almost sounded like a song.
Oh
Yeah. At this point,
my god.
it doesn't make sense, and he's still sitting on the couch next to Kevin, who's looking at him very guiltily. And then the one of the tall demon-like creatures that are illuminating the center of the room um talks to the other, and they get into a circle near the candles.
Oh
And
boy.
yeah, at that point, Obi said that a crimson red light seems to be emanating from where they stood. And they also were speaking now, but in a language that he couldn't understand. And one of them clearly looked different from the others and was reading from a book that it would periodically turn its head to away from to look at Kevin and
Oh
gazing
yeah, that's the
looking
summoning.
there.
That's yeah. He lost. That when the game is over. Okay, at this point, it's like this the video, the TikTok run. Like the YouTube video run. Just get
Right.
out of here.
Yeah. Honestly, I can't think of any other reaction I would have had. And at this point, they're both still sitting on the couch, and Kevin hasn't gotten up since he finished arranging the candles. And when he's not looking at OP apologizing, he's also whispering prayers. So it's like, I'm so sorry. Damn, I'm really sorry for bringing you into this. Hush, 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 like, really, you shouldn't be. Hush, really, Kevin? Really?
I
But
love the sound effect. Okay.
yeah, and so now OP is still freaking out, and he is reacting to everybody telling him that Kevin is not lying and that it's indeed a demonic ritual, and that he's kind of stuck. He's OP is now feeling really anxious. He's not feeling any better. He's stressed. He's hoping that he can come down from this and kind of laugh about how crazy of a trip this was, but deep down he can kind of start feeling the truth like hitting him.
At this
And
point, when in doubt, still bolt out of there. It doesn't matter if it turns
exactly,
out to be true or not. If it turns out to just be a high, it's even a funnier story that you got so scared that you took off. Like no,
exactly,
no,
exactly.
out.
So as he's getting to that, he's wondering, like he's asking, so if there's a small chance this is not a high and this is some type of fucked up ritual, how does it get out? And what is strong enough to smash a sturdy window if he comes
Mm-hmm.
down to it? So it sounds like he heard you.
Okay.
Um, Now we take a little time lapse again, and then he says that Kevin has been really emotional over the last while, and he asked him what the hell all of this was, what happened. And Kevin explained to him that 5 years ago he came to this same cabin alone to find some type of center. His life was okay, but it wasn't as good as he wanted it to be. So no matter how hard he worked, he felt like he kept bumping into ceilings he couldn't break. And that's when they approached him. They told him that they could help him obtain the life of his dreams.
They being
And
the ghoulish at this point, let's just call them what they are, demon people things.
Exactly. The demon people things approached
Mm-hmm.
him and
Mm-hmm.
told him that everything that he wanted to happen, they will give him, but that there would be a trade off in the future. And they made him sign something with his blood.
And what was the trade-off?
He didn't really think any of it. He didn't think it worked out. But
No,
then
okay. I'm
the trade-off.
sorry.
hmm
Maybe his life wasn't going so well, but I don't think his brainy parts were going that well either. How would you? What would you sign a contract without knowing what the trade-off was?
And in your blood. That's so ominous.
No,
That is
no,
so
no, no. We all know better than blood means soul. I
ominous.
mean, we've never experienced it, but everybody should know that, right? That's like common knowledge. That's like
Everybody should
human
know.
101.
Exactly.
Oh,
Don't sign anything in blood. Don't. But it seemed to have worked out because after that, Kevin's life became amazing and he wanted it to stay amazing. And eventually, they told him that he needed to honor the contract and they wanted his life, his perfect fucking life. Yeah. But the problem,
oh.
as you, I think you can kind of see where this is going.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Yeah. Kevin doesn't want to die. How surprising.
Yeah.
And as the day of him paying for the contract came closer, he asked them if they could make a small adjustment on the arrangement.
Mm.
What if he just so happened to find another soul? Will they give him another 5 years?
Oh, the mother lover. Oh my goodness. It was a setup from the
Yeah.
get-go.
Yeah. And OP was mad. So that's exactly what he said. He was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, and Kevin is blabbering. He said, like, he needed to find someone who'd be comfortable coming all the way up in the middle of the woods. And then something that's really awful to say to anyone or to ever hear. Kevin told him that when he thought about everyone in his life, he tried to pick someone who the fewest people would miss, and that it was
Ouch.
OP, and that he was sorry. So even for OP, who's really like kind of taking life as it goes and not really taking everything too seriously, that was a gut punch. And
Right. On
Kevin,
top of knowing that you're about to die in the hand of demons, is because somebody thinks your life is useless. At least it's worth something to him or to the demons, right? Shoot.
exactly. And Kevin just became kept insulting him more, and he told him that you're not utilizing your life to its full potential. I've always told you that, and I'm sorry, but that's just a fact. And I'm like,
So, but if I tell you right now that I will change that, would you let me go though?
that's a it's a very good question.
Like,
You
I
know,
promise, as soon as I walk out of there, I'm gonna be the next Jeff Bezos. Mm,
I'm a
I
change
tell
person.
you this.
Uh huh.
But what if though? What if OP just turned around and talked to the demons? I was like, okay, if you take him and let me go and give me that amazing life he thinks I should have, I'll bring you 5 people. How about that?
Exactly. You've
I'm
seen
gonna
how
flip it on
awful
you
of
because we both about to go.
seriously, I shouldn't be going alone. Like demons, you've seen how terrible of a person he is, and make him one of y'all. He's qualified, clearly.
Mm,
But Kevin just kept on going about how OP wasn't using his life and that he was just going back and forth between being sorry and justifying his decision to make his friend a sacrifice. So at this point, OP is just trying to figure out a way to survive, and he's looking around the room. His heart is racing. The lower chant that was like a song just is getting louder and louder, and the demons are standing in the middle of the room and they're all looking at him, and one approaches him with the book, and then the demon opens the book and holds it right in front of him, and his initials are written, and they want him to sign in blood.
and did
And
he
Kevin,
pass out?
not yet.
I
And that's
probably
when
will survive because I'll just pass out
and they can't. So you
and they
have to.
can't do anything if I'm passed out.
That's true. If you have
Hey,
to willingly sign it, they can't get
eh,
it from you if you're asleep.
fight or flight. Either you, some people just freeze.
I think that would work, but unfortunately, I think you can kind of see where this is going, and it didn't work like that for OP because he didn't want to, but Kevin held a razor blade to him and handed it to him, and he, even though he was saying he couldn't do it, Kevin kept on telling him, you have to," and he knew. At that point, he had a moment of clarity, and he knew that everything from the moment that they stepped inside of the cabin wasn't a trip, and that he was just in denial this whole time. When he tried to open the door and when he tried to open the window, and the fact that Kevin wouldn't let him step out from the same front door that they entered, he knew there was something shady, but he just kind of let it go. So as the demon was looking at him holding the book, and the humming was in his head, the room was lighting up a brighter crimson, he just took that razor blade and first thought of slicing Kevin's throat, which I think he should have done.
Good one. I think that's what he should have done.
hmm But somehow he just signed it. He didn't feel like he was in control of his
He was
body.
probably under the spell or something.
I'm thinking the humming was that,
Yeah.
a chant. But yeah, so he sliced his finger, signed with his blood, and then it happened. Like he thought that he would be immediately pulled into hell or devoured by the demons, and in a very painful fashion. But instead, the demon closed the book and returned to the center of the room with others, and they were just standing by the candles. He told Kevin that he was going to try to run for him, and that those fucking beings, whatever the hell they are, torture him for the rest of eternity, which same. But he Kevin told him that if he tried to escape after signing the agreement, that he'd be put through a fate worse than death. And
Oh,
OP was like, "Fuck that! I'm not going to believe the guy who brought me here to save his own sorry self. You
you're
know,
right.
I might be a degenerate, but I'm not a narcissistic, evil lunatic asshole." Um, so at that point, OP just starts typing on his phone that is now covered with blood, and he's still like trying to figure an escape plan. And Kevin and the demons have been rearranging the candles at the center of the room. The cabin is noisy. It's a mix of hums, chants, screams, and low giggles. The feeling is that the ritual is building up to its climax, and Kevin tells them, you need to come to the center of the room and lie down in the middle of the candles. So at this point, OP is just not having it. He sees a vase next to the couch and some large logs in the fireplace. So he decided to just pick one up, smash the window, and make a break for it. And he did it. He fucking
Mm.
escaped.
He got
Yeah,
out?
yeah, he picked the vase and it actually worked. He smashed the window, jumped out, escaped the cabin, and as he jumped out, he could hear an immense force trying to pull him back, and the sound of the demons in his head with their low hums turning into loud screams. But he made it. He escaped. And as he was
Okay.
running away, yeah, he's Usain bolting out of this, and he heard Kevin's blood curdling shrieks. They sounded inhumane, and he he thought that the demons just defaulted to their original agreements.
Yeah. I mean,
But
if the substitute is not there,
go back to the original
go
plan.
back to the original plan.
Yeah, so but even though he escaped, Obi is not all right though. He's bleeding everywhere. The glass from the broken window
Mm-hmm.
scraped the hell out of him, and he doesn't know where he is, but he's out, and freedom feels good. He's got a new lease on life, like you were saying. If he gets out of this, like, what if he promises to be a better person? That's
Mm-hmm.
what he's going for. He said that he's not gonna take anything for granted anymore, and will pursue his dreams and really make something of himself, you know. So yeah, he's at this point, he's asking his last questions, and he's saying that he's in Concrete, Washington. Concrete's a little small town in Washington State,
Mm-hmm.
and he thinks it's such a weird town, and because he's been running for the past half hour in what feels like a never-ending forest, and it just keeps going. And the forest looks really bizarre. The trees look different from any he's seen in his life before, and he doesn't know if maybe there's some sort of astrological or special event because happening that night, because the sky is glowing crimson red in every.
Crimson, the same crimson red that was glowing in the room with the
Yes,
demons.
yes. And he's asking
Um,
if that's the same for everyone. It is, right?
nah, Opie, I'm sorry, but I don't think Opie is out. Opie is in the upside down. Is what this.
I mean, he said that he's gonna keep running and he'll find a way home because
Because
he
if the
always.
trees look different than the trees he saw when he was going in, first of all, you're not at the same place. And when he went in, the sky was in crimson red. Because remember when they was said Kevin was setting the candles, and then it started getting dark. So if it was crimson red, it wouldn't be pitch black for them to need the candles. So how come when he escaped, the sky is crimson red?
Because he didn't.
I
He
don't think
always.
so. I don't. Opie is gone. Oh my god,
Yeah,
this is horrible.
it is. Being sacrificed by someone you thought was your friend wanting to revive the friendship, that is pretty traumatic.
No, 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 no. And the fact that he actually didn't get out. So that means if he heard Kevin screaming, that means the demons were mad. They were pissed that the sacrifice got away. Like he couldn't. Like we asked you one thing and you couldn't even convince the sacrifice to be a sacrifice.
You had one job.
You had one job. So they take Kevin and then they're like, you know what? Since the sacrifice is here, and he already signed with his blood. So the minute the blood touched that book, I don't think there was any going back.
Exactly.
So basically, it was 2 for 1. Like it's a
Yeah.
BOGO. Buy one get one free.
Well, because the demons already had Kevin's contract for five
Right.
years, so they could cash in any time. They were just trying to see if maybe they could get a little extra. Because
Yeah.
after
Because
all,
why would you trust demons? By the way, like the demons.
exactly, exactly.
This story was too much. Like also like I mean, not victim blaming here or anything, but Opie, if you haven't heard from somebody in a long time, I mean, that goes for everybody listening. And they invite you to go in the middle of the woods. I hope in your life you listen to enough crime shows, watch enough ID channels, or just open Instagram enough because this kind of type of thing is everywhere now. Like you can start with coffee, people. Like coffee is
Mhm.
okay, lunch is good, movies, bowling, like skating, ice
Anything
skating. I could go on and
break the
on and on, but there's so many things, so many steps before the woods
before
and
just
drugs.
going to the middle of the woods. I think it's kind of like the rich people bias, where if it's somebody who has a lot of money and is inviting you to their cabin, they're driving you out there, you're expecting like again, it's just you just don't want to see. You might be aware, like as you just when like he said, when they stepped in the cabin he knew that it wasn't a trip. It's that it's he probably was a bit wary at first, but then it's like, nah, it's just my rich friends. Rich people don't have the time to be murdering, even though I personally think they do the most, but I have no proof.
I mean, and this is ridiculous, but it was a pretty good story, though. It was a really good one. But yeah, be careful out there, people. Watch out for people inviting you in the woods, even in the bushes at this point, like behind the house. Just
Don't
be
go.
careful.